What's up, friends? I think it's been a month since you and I sat down and talked shop over commercial real estate. So pumped to dig into the channel this fall. Thank you for following along. So when I started in commercial real estate, I definitely 100% thought that success came from having all of the answers. Needing to have the research and data and be right in every circumstance and predict exactly what's going to happen. What I found out is that's part of it, but it turns out that being able to ask better questions, really digging in with people and asking questions really is the key. So not about having all of the answers necessarily, but asking the right questions so that you can lead people into what I think is a very key point in sales, and that's low friction next steps. That really has been my motto in the last month. You know how you write down little words and phrases that you can challenge yourself with. Low friction next steps. So in today's video, I want to give you the 3 questions that I've been asking almost every client. And they all sort of fit into one overall framework that I picked up recently that I think will make a ton of sense to you. But specifically the 3 questions that you can use this week as you talk to prospects. These will allow you to bring about practical solutions that will move the conversation forward without a ton of pressure into a low friction next step. So I think it took me almost 7 years to really understand the brokerage industry, that it is on one side about having all of the information. See, if you're in brokerage, you're in the information business, and you have to have that data compiled and be able to interpret and tell the stories from it. But of course, it's never just about the data. Yes, you're in the information business, but when you begin to bring that data into the lives of people that own assets that you'll sell, you go from the information business into the trust building businesses. And if selling properties is a game, asking great questions like the ones we're going to discuss today is how you win that game. So if you haven't yet, before we jump into the framework and the specific questions, hit that subscribe button below. I am using this YouTube channel to document my entrepreneurial journey through commercial real estate and invite you to join along the way. Okay, so no matter who you're calling, you're basically going to be asking questions that fit into this overall framework. And I picked this up from my coach recently, and it makes a ton of sense to me. Now, you're going to have to create unique questions based on the person that you're talking to or the asset that you're discussing. But no matter the question, they're going to fit into one of these 4 key spaces that I'm going to give to you now. Number 1 is fact-finding. Fact-finding questions like, how much CapEx have you added to the property? Or do you self-manage, or do you have third-party management? They allow you to begin to understand the story behind the asset in the eyes of your prospect. Number 2, you're gonna be able to ask opportunity questions. And these are great. These are planting seeds for what could be better in the event of a successful exit, or choosing to hold, or choosing to improve, or choosing to raise rents, right? What are the opportunities involved in this deal? Number 3 is where you'll make some serious coin, okay? They are consequence questions, right? And so your job as a salesperson is to quantify the cost of doing nothing. Remember, and we've talked about this before on this channel, but if you're in sales, you're a change agent. People don't necessarily like change, but if they understand the consequences of not changing, they're much more likely to take that next step forward. And lastly, number 4 is solution questions, right? So this is where you can offer the logical, low commitment next step that involves you. To use the Donald Miller story brand idea of marketing, you are the guide, right? You're, as the salesperson, not the main character. You're the guide. The prospect has an opportunity to come to you and receive help and or wisdom and or action that gets them to where they want to be. So the solution question allows you to begin to ask, are you ready to take that next step forward into potentially a sales process? All right, so how does this work in real life? And what are the questions I've been asking prospects that have really pushed conversations forward and even won me listings this summer, right? So let's start, for example, with a great fact-finding question. When you purchased this property, what was the goal? And how's that working out for you? This fact-finding question allows you to sort of connect with their thoughts on the property, right? Their behind-the-scenes thoughts. You've probably won the right to be heard in their lives with maybe multiple touch points or sharing your data. And now you're rewarded by asking good questions, the answers of which will help you point to next steps. Now, quick note in this. You should already know most of the facts about the properties. You are never calling someone, in my opinion, and saying, do you still own 123 East Main Street? You should know exactly what they own, right? And you might confirm. You might say, I have a record that you own 65 units in Fayette County. Is that still the case? Or have any of them traded recently where they're not updated in the county clerk? Because I'm following comps week after week and updating my own database. These are not obvious facts that you're asking. You're really getting their commentary on the status of how things are going. Do you manage or do you have third-party management? Great way to understand a fact that might indeed lead to you helping with a solution. Now, question number 2 I've used many times recently and a couple times this summer. Reveal the opportunity end of what you and I are talking about today. What are the opportunity questions you can ask in sales? For example, one of the ones I've used has been, what's the most frustrating part of owning this building? Talk to me about your frustrations. Let me be a shoulder to cry on based on how this is going. Okay, you bought it at the peak. It is totally underperformed. You're having to step into management and respond to stuff that is bogging you down. You're actually ready to just be rid of it and move on, okay? I've had that conversation a couple times recently. In my opinion, it's very important to understand that there is some frustration or that there might be some frustration with the property. You don't want to ask this question and have them say, well, there has been no frustration. It's been perfect from day one. Typically, you'll sort of understand there'll be some clues planted, some breadcrumbs that lead you to the fact that there might be some frustration behind this. So we've talked about a fact-finding question that led to a solution. We've talked about an opportunity question that led to a solution. And number 3, again, I want to paint a picture for you of how crucial it is to have consequence questions. Why are people selling property right now? I could point to 2 of our recent deals that would reveal exactly why people are. Yes, it's a down market. People are not selling necessarily at the top of the market, but they do have equity to move. And if you're asking someone, how much equity do you have in this property that's sitting on the sidelines? That consequence question reframes in their minds literal financial waste. A great property can be sitting there and really it represents $1 million of trapped equity that's earning 3%. And here you are as a solutions provider talking about that $1 million of equity potentially earning 8 to 10%. All of a sudden, doing nothing has a price tag. And that's the key to a consequence question. Now, what is the goal? Again, with any consequence question, it's to lead to a solutions question. So do you understand this trapped equity? The solutions question then being, how about we look at what your net proceeds could be if you made a move, right? You're saying, if I brought clarity, and you didn't have to commit, but we just looked at this in the form of a free report, could we meet? And if you understood it, would you be open to working with me to help you get to where you want to be? And now, to end the video, bonus questions. So, Justin, what have you been asking prospects this summer in your cold calls, right? Almost 40 cold calls this week. And these list of questions that sort of live in my Notion folder, I don't use a script. It does not work for me, but I sort of always have these key questions ready to go. Where do you want to be in 6 months or a year? What's keeping you from taking the next step? That's always a great question. What are the obstacles that are keeping you from this logical, low friction next step? A couple that have served me over the years. Who else needs to be involved in this property sale? The last thing you want is for a silent sibling in another state to pipe in at the last minute and say, oh, I need to sign that deed too. You have to understand who needs to be involved. How about the question, have you sold before, right? You really want to understand if they have stereotypes about brokers or if they haven't ever done it and you need to be more of an educator on the process. Of course, how much do you owe is a 100% crucial question that you need to ask throughout the process to understand if the person can even sell it. What would make this a win for you in the process? Absolutely great question. Of course, what would you do with the proceeds? Would you be in a 1031 exchange, or would you be buying another property, or are you just cashing out? And of course, the age-old best way to end this video, if you stuck around, you're getting the best question. The commercial real estate warrior is always thinking, what's our next deal together? So what else you got that might bring up other opportunities or other properties that you could work together on in the future? Friends, these are some crucial questions that will improve your flow in sales. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.